Yeah, my name's Jamie, another Andrew here at Pulselive. I've been at Pulse for about 2 years now, and before that I worked on Project Tango, Google's AR platform. Rest in peace, unfortunately, but yeah, so I've gone from building stuff for AOSP to building system apps at Pulse, two very different ways to build Android apps, and facing very different problems at Pulse, that I'm going to talk about today. So Pulse, like Felipe said, is we build sport products, so it involves a lot of stuff for the Premier League, a lot of stuff for ITC, which is cricket, Barcelona as well, so all our apps sort of fall into the same sort of category of content, so we always show a lot of news, a lot of video, a lot of live scores. So you go to the Barcelona app, you'll see like Barcelona news, Barcelona video, and Barcelona like live scores. First thing to talk about really is what is a complex screen. So this is a screenshot from ICC. This app was built in 2015, so yeah, it does look a little bit ugly. But I'll go through the changes we've made to ICC, A, to modernise it, and B, to fix some of the issues we had with it. So a complex screen is a screen that shows lots of different types of content. So you're recycling at the end of the day loads of different view types. So the Facebook newsfeed is a great example. As you scroll through your newsfeed, you've got the polls, the newsfeed photos, like friend suggestions, and loads of stuff in there. And actually, they're recycling onto the hood there. It's got like loads of different view types to inflate and recycle. So at Pulse, our home screens are our complex screens. So we show news, video, live scores, and some social stuff as well. So this is a video you should scroll through. You'll notice some jank. This is actually not the video that's lagging as we try and render stuff. That's real jank in the app. And this is the performance issue we hit because we have so many different types of view types, and some of the content is so big, we hit some serious performance issues trying to render some of the content you're scrolling. Here's again that same ICC on the left. It's 2015 that was built in. This is Six Nations on the right. It was built end of last year, and it was sort of the last project we built before we sort of introducing clean architecture that Felipe talks about, and also like before the last project before we moved to a new way of building these home screens. So as you scroll through, you can see live scores and full-time results, video content, and then some social stuff to load because the office Wi-Fi is rubbish. So we need to address what the goals of these screens are. So the first one we want to get to is the smooth scrolling performance. So as the user scrolls through some stuff, no one wants jank in their mobile app. They've got these they've paid £1,000 for a phone. They don't want to have dead frames. We went to easy use for developers. So you've got these screens that show all these different types of content, and it's very, very easy to fall into a trap where you have this God activity, this God fragment that has sort of 2,000 lines of code. We want to keep it easy to use developers, keep that view implementation really simple, and just be able to go, okay, today I'm working on the video stuff, so I want to be able to go home screen, show these videos, and just do like 1 line of code, 2 lines of code, and without having to scroll through huge amounts of code just for the home screen. We also want to get seamless and graceful loading for users. So if you imagine all this content for the home screen is coming from a lot of different places. You might have to do a different API call to get videos, another API to get news, and another one to get live scores. They all come in at different times. You don't want to end up in a place where your videos comes back first. You show the videos, then your news API call comes back, and you're like, well, actually, I want to show the news widget above the videos widget, so I've got to push all those videos down, shove the news in there, and you know, with a very 2005 website feel where you go to click something, then something else loads in, like an ad or something, and you go click it, and then it's pushed down, and you click something else that you want to click on. So really, I'm going to show you first where we were before, the problems we had with it, and then where we are now. So internally, we built something called Core Widget. This was sort of a abstraction away from your recycle view holder. It allowed you to sort of define what widgets in the screen. So we define the home screen as, okay, you have the news widget, the videos widget, and the live scores widget, and you can update those widgets independently from each other. So you can just go, news widget, show these news items, and you didn't have to deal with the rest of the recycle view. You didn't have to deal with or like dealing with like the notify notify item change and notify item added stuff. It dealt with that internally, so it was an abstraction away from the view holders. So here you can see we have this news widget. So this was one widget. We've got 3 news items and a new button to go to all the news screen. Here's another one of our widgets. This is the results. You've got header, the date, 3 full-time results, and again a button. Core widget was kind of okay. It was built again early 2015, so it was an abstraction away from the recycling view holder. I wouldn't say it was a nice abstraction, but it was an abstraction away from view holder. And you could update widgets completely individually of each other, so you didn't have, again, you didn't have to deal with to think about the rest of the content on the home screen. At the moment, I'm just dealing with news, I'm just dealing with video, I only want to care about that. That's about as far as it gets to the pros of core widget, unfortunately. I'm going to talk about the cons. The first one is performance, so I've already shown you this GIF. Again, this is not video jank, this is real app jank. As it's scrolling through, you're seeing that those widgets, some of those widgets are huge and they're very difficult to render, very expensive to render, and they can't be recycled because they haven't been built before, they haven't been inflated yet. So you're getting real app jank there as you scroll through. Here's the performance profile enabled. So there's a green line at the bottom here, it shows 60 millisecond render time. If you hit this, that's a 60 FPS line, that's where you want to target. You'll see as you scroll through, some of these frames are hitting the sort of 150 millisecond mark there. That's almost 200 milliseconds at the top, which is absolutely atrocious. 6 Nations, again, the reason why you're hitting those huge inflation times, all that jank, is because as you scroll through, the recycle view goes, oh, someone's scrolling, the results widget's coming up soon, I need to inflate it. So it's inflating, it's like almost a whole screen's worth of content, when only it's like, really, it doesn't need to do that. So it's taken those 200 milliseconds of inflation, inflating this entire thing when it doesn't really need to, because it's not going to show the whole thing at the same time. You're only just going to see the top of it as it scrolls in. It's a really nice diagram from a Facebook blog post. It explains that concept really well. So this is sort of your screen. You see where they have this one big news post. Really, the screen doesn't need to see the whole thing. So really what you aim to do is split up those views so that as the recycle view scrolls through, it only inflates what it needs. So you don't have to, as you scroll through, you don't have to inflate the entire thing. Just go, oh, only the header's coming up, I'll just inflate the header. Or only one of these live scores come up, I'll just inflate that live score. I don't need to inflate all the rest of it. Another problem we're hitting with core widget was that it wouldn't have to diff properly. So a lot of apps will have like pull to refresh and stuff like that. You're going to get cases where you pull to refresh, but the content has actually changed. So really, you don't want to like notify the user that it looks like something's changed, but something actually hasn't changed. So again, to pull to refresh, you get these sort of phantom updates where actually the recycler goes, oh, I'm buying this view again, like something must have changed, and so it tells the user with a little flash, but actually no content's changed. Which is really like, so it's super easy, you can avoid, but not great for the user. The other thing we get is like a really poor loading experience. Again, because all this content is coming from different places, you go into the news API to get the news, the videos API to get the videos. They come in at different times. You've got to manage your widgets so that you don't push content around. That's really sort of emphasised with slow network connections. So this is 6 Nations loading. The videos are loading first, and then news comes in later. So it's not too bad there because the API came back quite quickly. But you can imagine a slow network connection that you get the videos in, oh, I want to watch that video, you click it, and then the news just like inflates and you end up clicking on the news article you don't actually want to look at. Summary of those cons. Performance was a huge issue, it's the main one we wanted to solve. And then the phantom updates with no diffing, also one, the poor user experience. So we sort of took a step back sort of late 2017 to try and refine those goals, to identify what the problems are and like where we want to be. So those huge widgets need to be split up without sacrificing the user developers. So you want to be able to split those widgets up into individual views so that the recycling performance is really nice, but you don't have to, as a developer, have to manage those views individually. You don't have to go, okay, now show the news header, now show the like this news item and this news item. You want to still be able to maintain that. Oh, here's some news. Like here's 3 news items to show. Please go show that, and then but still like cleverly inflate that so you don't, inflate huge bits at a time. We also want to introduce placeholder or skeleton views to improve the loading experience. So if you know that you're going to show news content, you know where it's going to be in the view, but you just don't know what news it is yet, so you don't know what articles you're going to show, you can introduce some like placeholder skeleton views. If you load up Google Drive or Jira or anything like that, it will do the same sort of thing now, where it knows it's going to show you some like files or something. So just like a little like grey placeholder to show you, okay, I'm going to show you like a file here, I just don't know what it is yet. The nice thing about that is it actually, research is being done to show that it gives the illusion that the stuff's loading quicker, even though stuff hasn't actually loaded any quicker at all. To the user, you get like that 2-step loading experience that like mentally we interpret as, oh, this stuff's actually loading a lot quicker than it actually is. And we were to do like cleverly diff stuff. So if you pause to refresh and you end up with content that you've already seen before, we don't have those like phantom updates. Okay, cool. I'm going to look at where we are now, and then sort of work back from that and show you how we actually did it. So this is the FFA app. This is for the Australian sort of Soccer Association. If I play the video, you see there's no jank there at all. It's not as complex as home screen as ICC, but there is like, again, a load of complex widgets, but there's no scoring jank at all. Again, this is the performance profile enabled. There's one spike here that goes above. That one, I think, is one of the videos. But again, you don't. There's nothing like in the 200 millisecond range. Everything is above like 30 FPS. So visibly, there's no jank to user. They're still not perfect. We still love to be under this green line. That's not always possible on Android. These videos run like a Google Pixel as well. So obviously, you pick a low performance device, you're going to struggle to hit 60 FPS. This contrast doesn't show it very well at all, but there is there's lots of grey boxes here where we have sort of placeholder views. I can show you after if you're interested at all, where we don't know what news we're going to get yet. We are going to show news at some point, so we'll just show these like sort of skeleton views. Then when we get the news, we'll just fill it in. This avoids the problem of if the videos load first, I'm not like showing the videos and then showing the news when it comes in. I'm always showing the news, and then when it's ready, I just like fill the content in that's missing. How do we get there? Basically, we completely binned core widget. It wasn't really good enough at all. We picked up a library called Groupie. Groupie is a library written by someone called Lisa Wray, who now works at Facebook. It's a great library for this sort of stuff. It's specifically built to solve this sort of problem. So Groupie is a library that makes building complex screens easier. It does that by conceptually dividing everything into groups that can be individually updated. So you define groups. So this is the news group or the news section. And you just define what the items are within that, and you can easily just update the groups, and it works out where that needs to translate to the recycling view to actually like divide it up into individual items. So in Groupie, each view in the recycling view is an item. That's what they call it. So when you split it down to that's like one article or like one result or one video, you can group those items using sections. So you define like the news section or the video section or the live score section, and then section will be updated independently. So you can just go, okay, adapter, show these news items in this section, and it will just work it out and go, oh, I need to show that this, and this. So which is great from a developer point of view, because all we see is this article section, and we can go show these news articles for me. I don't have to deal with managing all these individual items in the recycle view, but to the recycle view, it sees these individual items. So as you're scrolling, you can go, oh, the articles are coming up next. I can just inflate the header because that's what's coming on screen, and then later on, as the user scrolls more, you can inflate what it needs. So you don't inflate this entire section, which we were doing with core widget, and that's why you got like the 200 milliseconds of jank. You only inflate what you need, which is a lot cheaper, and the system can divide it up between frames. It only has to, inflate what it needs. I'll go through now like some code with Groupie. So again, each view in a recycle view is called an item. So in this example, we'll just look at one row, one item. This is what it looks like. So we define an article item. It takes in an article. For us, we clean architecture as an article entity. That extends item. This is a thing from Groupie. It just tells it, like, okay, this is a thing that needs to go in a recycle view. You define what the layer is. It does all the inflation for you. You just define the XML for how to inflate it. This corresponds to, in your recycle view, the view type. So if you have a recycle view before that has the get view type for inflating different things, this is under the hood what Groupie uses. So if that integer is different for that layer, it knows it's a different view type, and so it can tell like what to recycle. If you have multiple article items, it knows, oh, this is the same layer, so I can just like recycle that as I scroll. And then you have a similar bind, which is similar to the onBind view holder for recycle view. Again, there would be the same implementation where you just, this is where you get your article and just update all your view content. So update the text view to show the title of the article. That's all an article item is. There's no extra magic going on there. But we need to put those items into sections because we don't want to deal with individual items. That's too micromanaging. We just want to deal with groups at a time. So section is just as simple. We extend from section. Again, it's a Groupie class. We call set header. So if you, in your news section, you don't know what news articles you're going to show yet, but you already know what header you're going to show. There's no difference in the header each time. So we can you give that to Groupie first, so it can show that. And then we also want to add some placeholders. So while there's no content in this section, show these placeholders or wait stuff for load. And then when you get items in, when you give Groupie those items that come back, it will just remove the placeholders and put the articles in there, which is really nice. Groupie is clever enough to know that the header is not part of the items, so it will know that I can show placeholders and have a header. It won't like think, oh, I've got a header, so that's one item, so I'm not sure placeholders. Also have two other helpful ones. These are the main methods you're using Groupie. Footer, so if you have like a weird bottom to one of your widgets, like some curved corner or something, you can set a footer. These headers and footers can also be sections themselves. So you have a really complex header that's the same every time, and you want to divide that up into individual items, you can do that no problem. The other one you can use is set hide when empty. So if you don't want to use placeholders, or for stuff like live scores where we don't know, for news we know we get news items in, we should know which news items they are, so we can show a placeholder. For live scores, we don't actually know if there's going to be a live game or not. So what we do is we can just hide that section while it's empty, and then when you get news items in, Groupie's clever enough to, okay, I can show it now. You won't want to use set placeholder and set hide when empty together, because the placeholders won't show, because the Groupie will hide this section when it's nothing in it. And again, look at back one. The Groupie is clever enough to know if you give it a header and a footer and set hide when empty, it will know that actually I've got a header and a footer, but I haven't actually got any items in my section, so I'm going to hide. It's really nice to go, oh, here's some items. Groupie goes, oh, I've got some items now. I'll show those items and also show my header and my footer. So it won't just give you like an empty section as a header and a footer with nothing in it. We also need to build an adapter for it, like your normal recycle adapter. We extend from group adapter. This extends from the normal recycle view adapter. Nothing special there. There's a bit more here, so you add all your sections in your home screen. So we create custom classes to this. You don't have to do that. You can just create an adapter and then add them manually. So in FFA, the example I showed you, we have an article section. We have ladders, which is like league tables for football. Videos, around the network, which is a new section. Then home favorites, which is like user can pick their favorite team. These are all the sections we have in our home screen. So we take all those sections in. We'll just add them to the group adapter. We've already defined those, all the rules of those. So those sections already know what their headers are. They already know what their placeholders are. So we should add them to the adapter. We're going to set span count to 2 because we have some grid stuff. So we have some videos that need to be side by side. So we set span count to 2. That's a group adapter. There's nothing special there. So now we have all the bits and pieces together. You just add this adapter like you normally would to recycle. There's nothing different there. We need to know when we get items in, when we get articles back from the API, how do we actually update a section? So you have reference to your section still. You get all your articles in. Again, it's in clean arc. We have their article entities. Completely abstract from elementation. They're just really simple Kotlin objects. For every article we get in, we map it to an article item, which is the groupie item we made at the very start, giving it the article it's supposed to show. And then we just call article section.update. Groupie at this point will replace all those placeholders it had, like nice load experience, with the articles it gets in, inflate them if necessary, or recycle them, and just put them in. That's it. That's all very simply how to set up very complex recycling views with some very simple items. So I think this is, so you saw this one here. That was this article section. We'd have another item here. We call it you might call it the headline news item or something like that. We'd have a different view type to this, but it'd just take an item. So you could you'd have your news section that would know the first item in the section needs to be the headline item. And that span count I was talking about, where you got videos side by side. Here it's even more clever that it knows it can inflate one of these at a time. So before, if you had our video section or videos widget in core widget, you'd have this video at the top, these 4 videos, and then maybe another button underneath. You've got more than a screens of content there, and the core widget would try and inflate the whole thing at one time, like 200 milliseconds of jank. Here it goes, I can inflate this one in 1 frame, then this one, and this one, and it just does one at a time. It's so much less expensive to inflate, and this immediately solved all our performance issues as soon as you start splitting those views up individually. There are some problems we haven't solved yet. I'll go through those now. So unguaranteed content. This is what I'm talking about with live scores. So in all our apps, we know we have news, we know we have video, so we can show those nice placeholders to give the user a nice gentle loading experience as they enter the app. For live scores, you don't know there's going to be live games or not, and you may have a different state between cache and API. So you may have a cache state that has no live games, but when you get stuff from the API back, it goes, well, there is a live game, so we need to show it. So this is, I won't turn the whole story of FFA. There is a matches carousel here, and because live scores are such an important feature for our clients, they tend to be at the top of our home screens. So all that work we did with the placeholders to avoid pushing content around, it's back again because we can't show placeholders for live scores. We don't know they're going to be live scores or not, which is a real shame. But it's not too bad here. And the other advantage of FFA is that it's one API call to get the entire home screen. So if everything's going to come back at the same time, so you're never going to have a horrendous load experience here. But it's not great, and you never really want to push content away from the user. It's never quite where we want to be, but this one's pretty difficult to avoid. Again on that screen, carousels are still awkward with Groupie. If everyone's used Airbnb's like Epoxy before, which solved a similar sort of problem, Epoxy has much more first-party support for carousels. Here in Groupie and in your recycle views, you end up, carousels are recycle views and recycle views. And if you add the Groupie terminology of like sections and stuff, so here I have a matches section which has a header and then a carousel section or a carousel item inside it. So this section itself has one item, but then inside that I have another like recycle view that's going horizontally. That has its own section. So you get live matches back, and as the developer you're going, well now I've got a matches section, I've got like one item in there, and I've got another section, so what one do I need to update? So it's still, carousels are still awkward. And there's, yeah, I mean in Android that's how carousels work, they are recycle views and recycle views. If you use something like Epoxy from Airbnb, yeah, I think they have, I've not used them, but they have much more first-party support for carousels. Another problem we haven't solved yet, UI designers, they love to throw a spanner in the works. So we went through, we split up all these views, now everything loads brilliantly, all the designers are happy. Then this will be a screenshot from the new ICC designs that we started like 3 weeks ago. We split up all these views. This was before with Core Widget. This was one big view. So doing something like this, where you have this color overlapping the fixture, no problem because we control the entire view. Now in Groupie, they have no concept of each other. This header doesn't know this item exists, so you'd like, well now I can't do that because this just doesn't happen. Thankfully, this is solvable with recycle view decorations. With recycle view decorations, you can do margins and paddings and stuff. You can also, it gives you a canvas that you can paint on. This is a screenshot from the designs, but we've actually implemented this like 3 days ago. And we did this by coloring the header, and then with the canvas and recycle decorations, you can color a little bit more and make, just draw on the canvas this rectangle with this color, and it just looks no different. We're no problems whatsoever, and there's no performance hit for that at all. So this is just the power of recycle decorations. This is Goodwood. This is a motorsport app. There's not a lot of like painting going on here. Goodwood has like multiple events a year that needs to be themed differently, so the timetable may look different. So with no recycle decorations on the left, you've got the timetable thing is just grayed out. In this particular theme for this particular event, with the decorations, it's like a light grey. Again, the contrast isn't shown nicely there. Also, we do most of our margin work in decorations. So without the decorations, it's all scrunched up, no padding whatsoever. And then with this, it's all the even, consistent margins. So you can do a lot with decorations. They're probably very underused in the Android community. We had a sort of much back and fro of like trying to work out how much of sort of margin stuff should you define that when you build your like layout for your view. Should you like do no margin whatsoever, just hand that all to recycle view? And that's sort of like a discussion we're still having with a lot of these views that you're reusing between screens. So you might have these news articles at the bottom here. You probably use the same layout in the news section, but the design might have like different margins. In that case, you want to just build your view, just end at this outline, and deal with any margins you need to do. Like you see here, there's no outline, there's no margins on the actual views itself. All the margins are handled by the recycle decorations. Cool, that's all the main content I have for you. So if you've not listened for the last 45 minutes and you want to take one thing away, it's split up your views. The performance gain you get from not inflating huge screens worth of content is huge. So please split up your view types in your recycle view. A lot of designs you may get back from the designer will just be complete, here's what to do when you're showing data. Designers sometimes don't think about loading states, empty states, error states. So you want to think about the loading experience you're giving to the user as well. And you might need to have like an open discussion with designers to go, the API is going to take a couple of seconds to come back. Like, what do you want me to show in the meantime? Is there something nice I can do there? And the last point is Groupie isn't the silver bullet. So the Groupie is not the solution to all your recycling problems. It's designed specifically to solve this problem of showing lots of different view types, but content that's grouped together. It isn't a complete replacement for all of your recycling view adapters. If you have recycling views that showing one type of content, you don't need to use Groupie, you don't need to use even Epoxy or anything like that. Yeah, so it isn't silver bullet, but it's great at solving this specific problem. And links for you. So that's the link to the Groupie library, Airbnb's Epoxy, which is very, very powerful. It does a lot of annotation processing. It's a bit more complex, but it is designed to solve a similar problem, but not quite in the same way. It doesn't define your adapter in terms of groups. You just build a controller, and if your content works in a way that you update everything at the same time, Epoxy works really well. The other one is a very unused library called, by Tumblr called Graywater, and it's a similar sort of thing where it's designed. It basically adds like a middleman between you and your recycle view holders. It makes something called a binder, and you basically have one binder. So you have one Tumblr post, is the example they use, has one binder under the hood that has like 4 view holders, which splits up like the same content nicely, so you get the same performance gain, but without again the need to micromanage each of your views individually. And a link to Pulselive. We are hiring. We're contractually obligated to say that, unfortunately. But yeah, if you're interested in sport at all, or building Android applications, yeah, I'll hit us up. Thank you.